Princess Endeavor alone is still as pretty as the day she first came into Genshin Impact. And wow, if you've been around the game for quite some time, you know Fischl has been here since basically 1.0 and is considered to be basically one of the best 4-star back then because of how much she is capable of doing. I think I remember back then she was a character that actually was built to be a physical DPS the most, because physical damage back then has some usefulness to it because the other elemental reactions is, you know, still catching up and waiting for newer characters to beat physical damage. But basically speaking, Fischl has always been one of the top 4-star character in the whole damn game, and still to this day, right at this current moment, it's basically 5.2, almost 5.3 now, 4 years and a half down the line. She is still basically a very valuable character across any of the accounts, especially when you have her constellation, which is perfect right now as she is on the banner once again. It's been a bit of time since she's been back, so it's also good for you to try and stack up a little bit of Fischl's constellations, because you will never know when you are actually going to be needing a sub DPS as powerful as she is. Well, because of course Fischl being at her C6 still has the potential to out damage some of the other 5-star character out there, especially, you know, we talk a lot about Yai Miko being at C0. Out damaging a 5-star character at their C0 is a powerful thing, which makes her to be a very valuable character. Now, of course, the whole point of today's video is not for me to focus on too much about Fischl's build specifically, because I know that there are many other videos out there that already touch on this, but we're going to be talking about some of the best new teams that Fischl actually finds herself in. Now, technically speaking, any of the sub DPS character in Genshin Impact can work in any teams that you want to fit them in, and Fischl of course is one of those characters. Now, especially she being an Electro character, it's a lot easier for you to fit her in basically any of the team comps out there, and she technically will work for you. However, there are still some of the better teams, or some of the teams that actually prefer using Fischl a lot more, and we're going to be listing out a lot of them for you today, many of which are free to play friendly, which is a really nice thing about Fischl teams. And moreover, I think it's a very long time since I actually have a video on Fischl, probably ever since the start of 1.0 Genshin Impact. So 4 years down the line, we finally have something new for Fischl, which is something I'm really excited for. Nutlin is finally here, and of course that comes with many new characters that you would want to pull, and I can guarantee you that Mavuika is going to be on the list. Now, if you're planning to swipe for pulling, then don't forget to check out Loot Bar. If you know me, I've been recommending you guys Loot Bar before, since you can always save almost a 20% on all of your top-ups. With over 100,000 orders and so many good reviews at this point, you can be sure that Loot Bar is trustworthy. To demonstrate to you, I've been topping up my Genshin account through Loot Bar, buying the highest Genshin package. The only information you would need to fill out is going to be your UID and server region. Then go through the checkout process. After completing, the top-ups will come to your account within 5 minutes. Usually it just comes instantly for me. Here you can see my order receipt of all of my top-ups that I have done. So guys, be sure to check out Loot Bar through the link in my description, as it can be a great way for you to save your money, especially if you are topping up a large amount. Alright, so first off, some of the team comps that Fischl works really well in are definitely going to be the Dendro teams. First, we're going to be looking into the Quicken teams. Now, one of the newer Quicken teams that Fischl finds herself in recently are gonna be teams such as Fischl, Nahida, Shilonen, and an Electro DPS. And in my case, I'm using Kuching because I am a Kuching main. I've been using my Kuching forever. It's a really nice things that Fischl being on this team just find herself to have a lot of more comfortability this time around because of the fact that Shilonen came. Now, before, we sometimes want to have either a Kokomi to fill up the healer place that turns it into a Hyperbloom team, but sometimes we just risk it and have a Kazuya here without a specific healer and try to get as much damage off as you can toward your enemies, trying to delete them before they actually delete you. But now Shilonen is here a lot more comfy rotations because she is a healer for your team, and Fischl will still be able to shine in this team being being a very good sub DPS character, being able to trigger Aggravates here and there because of Nahida. And of course the Electro DPS, you can technically slot in any of the Electro DPS and they will still do fine. In my case, I'm just getting Kuching. Other character, you know, like Raiden still works. Dino, Claran specifically, those are the more fitting character that you want to use in this team if you're trying to look for an Electro DPS. Your other interesting teams can be if you're using a Tighnari team, you can run alongside with Fischl, Yai and Shlonen. Now obviously your Tighnari have to be invested here for him to carry the team, because not only is he going to be doing Quicken damage, but sometimes he is going to be the triggerer for Fischl and Yai Miko. So if your Tighnari is under level, it's going to be a little bit hard to use this team, but while it is a pretty specific team for a Tighnari, obviously you can use some of the other Dendro DPS character, you know, like Alhaitham you wanted to. If I were to be using Alhaitham, sometimes I'll be using a Fischl, Nahida and Kuki Shinobu on his team running alongside with him. On other very interesting Quicken team, we usually run a very powerful team and as well is Yai, Fish, Nahida and Sucrose. This is one of the better free-to-play team out there. You technically kind of want to have Yai here because she is a pretty good driver for this kind of team, but obviously not a must. If you don't have Yai Miko, you can have characters such as Aura here and you still do perfectly fine. But Yai Fish combo has always been one of the better team out there. Everyone has been trying to compare Yai Miko and Fisher together, but many do not think that they both can be on the same team, and they do absolutely fantastically together. Other than that, up next we have Hyperbloom team, and I would say these are some of the most free-to-play friendly team I've seen to date, and one of which is going to be Fischl, Kuki, Nahida and Xingqiu. It's still one of the old school Hyperbloom team, I would say, still holding up until this point. Very much competitive to many of the team out there, I have to honestly say, because not only is this team absolutely free-to-play friendly, but they actually deletes the Abyss many of the time. Obviously you do have to invest into your 4-star characters, but it's a very easy team for you to play. Hyperbloom team has always been some of the better team for you to invest in, especially when you are free to play. The only character you need to invest in obviously is Nahida, because she's a 5-star character. Obviously I do recommend you to try and get her specific weapons, but guys, like, if you're using these kind of teams, you're probably not going to be pulling too many on other characters anyway, right? Then I always have to say that try to invest into the character that you use the most on your account, so they actually helps you out tremendously. Other Hyperbloom recommendations we can have is going to be Fischl, Sucrose, DMC and Xingqiu. Now it's slightly a bit variant to the first team, but it's even more free to play friendly because they're all 4-star characters. DMC is a character that you can get up to C6 very easily, a bit of time investment, but he being at C6 does help you quite a bit and a pretty useful character. It's still one of the only few Traveler element that I'm still using at this point. Hopefully Pyro Traveler is going to be a lot better. But at this point in time, these are some of the very nice Hyperbloom teams that you can look into. Obviously, there are many other Hyperbloom teams that I can go for, like Hyperbloom teams. They have a lot of different combinations that you can go with. But currently, I'm just stating out the most free-to-play friendly, but still perform absolutely well here for you guys. Another team options for Fischl is Electro Charge. Interestingly, Electro Charge has been buffed in this patch, so technically speaking, it is decently better. Now, I've already talked about this team a couple of times before, but I do have to say again, this is Fischl, Xingqiu, Sucrose and Auroron team, a very powerful team indeed, with the introduction of Auroron during this patch and Electro Charge buffing. This is one of the better teams in terms of Electro Charge you have in the game, and absolutely free to play. Now, Fischl you can get up to C6. Auroron has a very good potential if you have more of his constellation as well. Obviously, if you do have him at C6, he has a decent buff for your whole team. Since these characters are 4 stars, all 4 of these characters you can have the ability to get them all at C6, making you a very powerful free to play friendly team that you can use across technically most of the Abyss. Obviously, Electro Charge is blocked by enemies with Electro and Hydro shielding, so you do have to be mindful about that, but other than that, I feel that most of the time you can tackle any of the content and they will do perfectly fine. Another very powerful Electro Charge team that I want to mention is Neuvillette, Furina, Shlonen and Fischl. Now we know that Neuvillette is technically one of the best characters in the game, which is why I still want to recommend a Fischl team with him, because while Novelet is currently on the banner alongside with Fischl, and I know that many of you are using Novelet, so this team is a perfect Novelet team. While it's technically has the ability to clear most of the content for you apart from enemies with Hydro Shield, of course, it is a little bit invested, but these are some of the more popular support characters, you know, Farina and Shilonen out there that you want to have, so it's technically not that hard. Other interesting options for a Fischl team, you know, can have like an Overload. I specifically sometimes use Fischl in the teams alongside with Chevreuse, Bennett, and Alekino, because while Alekino is one of the more popular characters out there in the game right now in terms of being a Hydro DPS, I don't know how much it's going to be changing whenever Mavuika comes, because she is rumored to be another Pyro DPS character. But even if that she is, she will still be able to use in this team. But well, I'll have an updated Mavuika teams whenever she comes, so you guys don't really have to worry. But currently, an interesting Overload team for Fischl like this can be pretty fun. Other options you can have is going to be an Overvape team, very free to play friendly once again, which is Fischl, Xiangling, Xingqiu, and Bennett. This is the god tier 1.0 4-star team that we have always been using up until this point. Very easy to use, you most likely don't have any problem most of the time. Yeah, the only thing it sucks is that yeah, you're just using the old 1.0 character ever since, so it can get a little bit boring, but slot in this team, you have these characters invested and you're technically gonna have no trouble tackling most of the content. Obviously, other Overvape team potentially you can run alongside with Hu Tao, Xingqiu, Yelan, and Shilonen. Those kind of team for your Pyro DPS character. You can swap in, you know, Yoimiya, and you know, it will still be a perfect team for Yoimiya. But I think Yoimiya, if you're using her, then Xingqiu is probably going to be a more decent character to support her with a slightly bit of resistance to interruption, because Yelan don't give you that. And another very powerful Overvape team is considered to be a Sukokomon team, which Fischl, Kokomi, Xiangling, and Sucrose is going to be there on the team. Now, I've mentioned this before, this is a very tough team for you to pull off, and I'm not a master at it either, so you know, don't look at the showcase I'm doing here and think that I'm doing the right thing. I will have a very good guide on Sukokomon once again for you guys down in the description, so you guys can check it, the perfect rotation for this team out. But if you do this correctly, this is still one of the better team out there that you can play around with, and it also decently free to play friendly. Now, I know that Fischl is a good sub DPS character, but sometimes some Fischl enthusiasts out there may want to have her as an on-field character. Now, obviously for Fischl, where she is going to be the on-field character, she's technically going to be a physical DPS. And I have to say that physical DPS nowadays just really sucks in terms of the support character that they have access to, the damage-wise compared to other reactions. And the kind of enemies that actually have resistance to physical damage is still very much out there, which is why it technically sucks. But if you really want to force the matter, then running with Fischl, Rosaria, Mika, and Zhongli technically can still do the job for you. While Zhongli is currently on the banner, so if you really want to force the matter, you can kind of have it, I would say, but obviously I do not recommend this because it's a pretty bad team. Now, if you're talking about a physical DPS, I think there's going to be a new character coming soon, which is known as Eula. Now, if you really want to play her, I'll give you a bit of a leak in terms of her team comps, and that is technically going to be a team you can run with Fischl, Mika, and Zhongli. She's going to be basically the best physical DPS damage out there in the game, but as you consider physical damage basically sucks now, so yeah, even if Eula actually comes, I don't think many of us are going to be getting her on our account. So yeah, I just want to state it for you guys, giving you a bit of a leak so that it keeps you guys a little bit more interested and excited for the futures of the characters that's going to be coming. But other than that, yeah, I'll just give it straight to you, it really sucks. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to use physical DPS nowadays. But another interesting options that Fischl usually runs in nowadays is going to be a Geo DPS support, and specifically going to be Navia. Now, usually when we say a Geo DPS, we think of Navia because still she is a character that pretty much a saving grace for Geo DPS. With the introduction of Shilonen, it has given a bit of a buff toward Navia because Shilonen is just perfect on her team. You can run alongside with a Fischl and Bennett as well for Navia, and she would do perfectly fine. It's one of the more free-to-play friendly teams that I run with my Navia sometimes if I'm already using the other good sub DPS character on the other team. So guys, I've already mentioned that Fischl is a character that can be used across many different team comps, and I know that there are many different teams out there that she can still fit in. So if you guys do have any other very good Fischl team recommendation, feel free to leave it down in the comment sections, as I always love to look into good team comps discussion out there for you. I hope that some of these Fischl new teams recommendation has helped you in terms of building your Fischl team to be better and have more good team comps to work around with. So guys, if you did enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss out on my future Genshin Impact video. Patch 5.3 is going to be very soon, so I'm sure you guys are going to be excited for those content as well. I really appreciate you guys staying with me till this part of the video, guys, and with that I wish you a super day, and I will catch you on my next video.